I think when you look back on it, it's an incredible achievement to see where we've come from. Ross and I sort of talked about it, and when I started in 2008, and he was just before that. If you had told us back then that we were going to be number one in the world, I think a lot of people would have probably laughed.
On June 23rd, 2021, New Zealand won the World Test Championship and also reclaimed the number one spot in the ICC Test rankings. They are also the number one team in ODIs and ranked number 3 in T20 internationals. But just 8 years ago, in January 2013, New Zealand cricket experienced one of its lowest points. Heading into a tour of South Africa, they were number 8 in tests, number 8 in ODIs and number 9 in T20Is. They had won just 6 tests out of 29 in the previous 4 years.
I think the view of the Black Caps was at the time one of probably still hoping to win games as opposed to expecting them to win.
We didn't know really how to win games of cricket. We'd won the odd game here and there, and we'd sort of surprised a few people with a few performances, but by no means were we consistent or probably had the belief that we've definitely got now. They say it, but winning becomes a habit, and I guess once you win a few games, you start to believe and you start to grow as a side. And on the flip side of that, losing also becomes a habit, and you sort of find yourself in positions to win games and you can't get across the line. We always managed to scrub ourselves up and do it right in world events, World Cups, and the odd series here and there. But like I say, there's certainly a lack of consistency.
To add to the poor results, New Zealand cricket fell into one of its most acrimonious controversies as Ross Taylor was stripped of the captaincy mid-tour in 2012, with Brendan McCullum taking over. And on January 2nd, 2013, in McCullum's first test as captain, he chose to bat in Cape Town, and New Zealand were bowled out for 45, their lowest total since 1955.
It was obviously starting at the night time here back in New Zealand. I was injured. I'd done my thumb, so I missed that tour. And yeah, it was just watching it. There I wasn't awake for long. Looking back now, I think the main thing that was lacking was the belief amongst the group. And I guess when you haven't had a lot of success, there's not a lot of that belief there, and things were pretty tough at that time. Obviously, there was the stuff going on with the captaincy. Brendan had just taken over his first test in charge, and all of a sudden we win the toss and we're bundled out for 45. And I think the main thing that was missing in that group was probably the belief.
That evening, in McCullum's dressing room, there was an impromptu meeting between McCullum, Mike Hesson, who had taken over as coach 6 months before, the assistant coach and the team manager. What was spoken about was not so much results, but the style of cricket New Zealand were playing, their attitude, and whether it was a real representation of themselves. Always considered among the nice guys of cricket, New Zealand in the 1990s and early 2000s had adopted some of Australia's verbal aggression on and off the field, typified by the on-field arguments during the 2011 World Cup semi-final with South Africa. Hesson and McCullum realized this was only serving as a distraction, and they resolved to play a brand of cricket they could be proud of.
We weren't being authentic. We were trying to be someone else. You know, there are other sides around the world who were better than us, and we were sort of picking up bits and pieces from them and trying to apply it to our game rather than going, okay, who are we? You know, who are we trying to represent? What's the best way we can play our cricket? And try and create a style of play that suits the characters we had in the team and the people that we were. So that's the way we draw it back rather than necessarily trying to be somebody else.
I think when you start trying to implement things that are not, all these big words and phrases that a lot of people use, if you don't believe it and you're not authentic to yourself, then it's just a bit of fluff at the end of the day.
The New Zealand side decided to look at the loss in Cape Town as ground zero, and their renewed focus bore immediate results. They drew their next series at home against then number 2 ranked England, and then lost just one of their next 8, winning 4.
I think coming back to New Zealand, like I said, it was the only way was up from the tour of South Africa. And that was a great series to be a part of. I know there was a 0-0 draw through 3 matches, but it sort of ebbed and flowed throughout. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sort of felt like we were in a position to win the game in Dunedin, and they hung on as a draw. And then the weather saved us in Wellington. And then, a hard-fought draw in Auckland, which was an incredible game to be a part of. Matt Pryor's resilience and 100 in that second innings, and also Stuart Broad hanging around for 80 odd balls for not many runs. So yeah, it was an incredible test to be a part of, and I think the belief probably started amongst the group, knowing that we can perform against a pretty good English side at the time.
There were definitely big changes within the group and within the team, but performances started to come after that. Not immediate. It was a gradual incline in terms of performance, but we certainly saw some strides early. Thankfully, we got some results relatively early, which sort of reinforced the way that we wanted to go.
There were changes in domestic cricket and high-quality players entering the field. But what helped New Zealand as much as anything was their new style and a growing belief that they could get results even from tough situations.
Another series that I think of is the Indian series in New Zealand, where we won the first match at Eden Park in what was one of my favourite Test matches. It was a close match, and then obviously for Brendan to turn things around where it looked like we were going to get a hefty hiding in Wellington and score a 100. It was, I guess, the belief that we could get ourselves out of trouble as well, rather than, I think, in years gone by we probably would have just rolled over and lost that match. So just not only the belief to win from Renew, but to be able to hang in there and hang tough for long periods of time.
So I think belief's a big part of cricket. Once you feel like you belong and that belief's there, and that you can win from a lot of different scenarios, the confidence bred there, and the confidence in the team. I think I don't think there's just one magic bullet. I think there's been a lot of little things that have contributed to the team over the years, and I guess it's nice for it all to come together.
Between February 2013 and February 2016 under McCullum, New Zealand won 11 tests and lost 9. They rose from number 8 to number 5 in tests.
Look, I think the way we started to perform in foreign conditions was important to us. I mean, we're always very good at home, but even though we were good at home, we weren't always winning. Whereas we started to win, most series at home, which was really important. I think away from home, we started to perform well in the likes of the UAE, which were very foreign conditions to us. A couple of series against Pakistan over there where we were put to the sword, and then we fought back and we showed that we'd improved in certain areas, which was really important for us. Look, I think we just naturally grew as a team, over time. I think in England, often we went one behind, but we came back and drew a couple of series over there, which was really important. Tough places to play cricket in England. We were a very good side at that time. So the fact we won a test at Headingley, was a really special one for us. We won in the West Indies for the first time when we won the third test in Barbados. Once again, we had to fight right to the end. So, once you start to see those characteristics and you start to see, winning on the 5th day in tough circumstances, then you know that you've got a special group of players.
New Zealand had begun to find consistency in white ball cricket under McCullum too. Their victory in the 2015 World Cup semi-final at home saw the country's passion for cricket hit a new peak. By the time McCullum retired from tests in 2016, Kane Williamson was already groomed for captaincy and brought his own personality to the role.
I think the biggest thing about the team is just being authentic and doing what you want. I guess in the last however long you had Brendan, who's very attacking, and then Kane, who's a lot more subdued. But you still get the same results. So I don't think there's a right or wrong way about going about it. I think the team, I think we're authentic and did what I think was good for each individual, and more often than not, you get the right result.
Yeah, I think Kane learned a lot from Brendan in the way that he sort of managed the players, managed the group. But in saying that, Kane's put his own spin on things as well, and Kane's I guess tenure as captain is always going to be a lot longer than what Brendan's was. So Brendan's was a short, sharp injection of energy and belief amongst the group, whereas Kane has to sustain his over a longer period of time. So his is slightly different, but also a brilliant leadership styles.
In 2019, New Zealand made the World Cup final for the second straight time. But the final was heartbreaking as New Zealand lost on boundary countback after a second super over. The World Test Championship, announced in 2019, gave New Zealand a new route to become world champions. After losing 3-0 to Australia in 2019-20, they knew they had to win their last 4 tests at home to have a chance to make the WTC final. But the New Zealand way had become to simply focus on playing the right style of cricket rather than getting obsessed with results.
The only thing that I think we all knew was when we started our home summer last year that we needed to win all 4 games to have any chance of making the final. So that was acknowledged, but then it was actually put into the background and just make sure that we did focus on one game at a time.
And the belief that was born in the McCullum-Hesson era came to the fore as New Zealand snatched victory late in the first test of their series against Pakistan at Mount Maunganui, with Mitch Santner taking the final wicket.
During the home summer, we knew we had to win all 4 matches to even give ourselves a chance. And I guess that's what makes that performance at the Mount and Mitchell Santner's catch, I guess, so important, because, you know, if we'd drawn that match on a pretty placid wicket, you know, we normally leave a bit of grass in it at all the other venues. So that one there, we had to the fast bowlers definitely had to work very hard to get the wickets. But, you know, we're probably only 3, 4, 5 overs away from, you know, not being in this situation.
Well, I knew then with the team how much this was meaning to them as well. And I guess to see them go down to the wire, hold their nerve again and do that, I think just builds that confidence in the team as well. So when you enter the last day of the World Test Championship final and you know that you've got all 3 results on the line, then you know the team's actually, you know they're up for it, you know they're excited by it, and providing we can just, I guess, stay in that moment, I thought we had a chance.
Part of New Zealand's WTC winning squad was 6 players who had been part of the setup during the 45 all-out in Cape Town 8 years ago, and 9 members of the 2019 World Cup squad.
It was incredible, just the emotion, obviously, from straight after winning, and then you sort of sit back and having a couple of beers with guys and just reflecting on what was not only an incredible sort of 2-year period of the Test Championship final, but for some of the older guys to reflect back longer and to see where we've come from and where we're sitting now was pretty special, to sit back and enjoy a beer and look back on some of the times that weren't so good and enjoy some of the tours that we look back on and reminisced on as well.
I think at the start of my career, it was a dream, I think, to win a World Cup. To be a world champion, probably unrealistic, I think, but as the team has developed over the years, 2015, you know, we probably played our final and the semi-final, and then to have gone so close, you know, we had a bit of luck leading into that 2019 final, and we probably used it all up in the final. It doesn't get any closer than that. I never thought I'd play in a final, let alone win one again. So I suppose that was why, you know, some of the other players probably thought they could play in another World Cup, you know, another couple of World Cups to give themselves an opportunity to do that again. But for myself, I generally thought that was probably my last chance. But obviously the Test Championship changed that, and it was nice to be able to win a World Cup and you know, not only for ourselves, but for a lot of family and friends, and obviously the public of New Zealand.